Patton Sports Videocast is brought to you by Snap Laces. Snap Laces' elite lacing system was designed for world-class athletes. They come in hundreds of color combinations so you can perform well and look great at the same time. Buy a set online today by clicking through the top image on mopattonsports.com. LT360 is a health and weight loss company based in Brentwood, led by Coach Scott Oatsvall and Brent High. They have helped more than 700 clients in the last year get healthy, lose weight, and feel better with an all-natural program and simple approach to exercise and nutrition. LT360 offers free health and wellness seminars each week. For more information, visit their website at lt360.com or call them at 615-312-8244. Whether you are looking for seafood, vegetarian options, or delicious fresh prepared meats, Tzatziki's Mediterranean Cafe has menu items that are sure to satisfy. The recipes are all made fresh and inspired by Mediterranean cuisine. Tzatziki's is open for lunch and dinner and provides catering for events, both large and small. Order your favorite entree by using the To-Go Order app on your phone. Tzatziki's is more than a restaurant. It's a take on the idea that great food brings people together. Visit Tzatziki'sCafe.com for a listing of locations in the Nashville area. Hey, I want to thank you all for joining us here on Patton Sports Videocast as we get you set for semifinals in Division II. We're here at Brentwood Academy. They've got Baylor coming to town. We're going to talk a little bit about that game in a second. But semifinals in Division II, quarterfinals in Division I. I'm Maurice Patton along with Kevin Smith here, our esteemed high school football analyst. And I want to remind you guys before we get into some of these games, be sure and follow us on Facebook at Patton Sports. Check out all of our content there, our written stuff, our videos, our podcasts. We do a lot of what we think is pretty good stuff. Hope you do too, but check that out at Patton Sports in addition to the website. And also want to remind you again about our Beat Mostradamus contest. I'll have my picks up there. We'll see what you got. The winner gets a gift card to Tzatziki's Mediterranean Cafe. They've got 7 locations in the Nashville area. You can use it at any of them. So let's see what you got. But Kevin, we're not going to start with this game. We've talked about 5A all season. We've talked about these two teams all season. Hillsborough goes to Independence. The Burros come in at 9-3. Indy's obviously undefeated at 12-0, coming off a big win against Hendersonville. What are your thoughts on that?
I tell you what, if Independence wins this game and continues to survive and advance and make it to the state championship game in Cookeville, they have earned it. We're talking about opening round at 8-2 Cane Ridge team, a 10-1 Hillsborough team in round 2, and now a 9-3 Hillsborough team that is the defending 5A runner-ups from a year ago, right, with a lot of talent across the board. Mo, this is the game where for Independence it's a little scary in the fact that athlete for athlete, Hillsborough is one of the few teams that can match them athlete for athlete. So I'm really looking forward to the coaches' game plans here and see who can take who out of their game and how patient is Independence going to be on offense, because they've shown us that they can run it when needed, and of course they can throw it when needed.
Exactly. You mentioned Independence beating Hendersonville last week 38-7. Hillsborough advanced with a 42-7 win over Beach. So both those teams put both phases of their game on display. Indy's been scoring points all year. We've talked about Hillsborough got off to that 3-3 start, beat Hendersonville earlier, turned around and lost to Cane Ridge. They've now run off 6 straight wins. We really like what we're seeing out of Hillsborough. Again, defensively in particular, you'd think they may be able to match up with Independence and what they like to do on the offensive side of the ball, as well as anybody they've seen so far this year. Meanwhile, Independence, and we've talked about their defense, not a lot of people do, but we have. But you know, we like what they've been able to do defensively, and Hillsborough presents a little bit of a challenge with their balance, with the quarterback Dalen Murphy, who has really settled into that offense really well, with the 2 running backs in Jeremy Hill and DeAndre Alexander, and with the receivers on the edge, with Jay King, who is starting to come back from a bit of a hamstring injury, Javante Patton, Malik Fleming gets a little bit involved in the passing game as well. So, like you said, I think they've got the pieces on both sides of the ball to make this Independence's biggest challenge to this point.
Yeah, and if Hillsborough can eliminate some penalties and kind of click on all levels like they did against the Hendersonville, this is going to be a great matchup because, like you just said, they got headliners. We got Jay Kings and the Malik Flemings and the Ben Hutches down in the trenches. The guys that don't get talked about that I think could have a huge impact on this game is Georgia State commit Roy Hunter at the defensive end, outside linebacker position. Great pass rusher, does a good job in the run game. He can be a difference maker as they bring pressure against Independence. And another guy who really showed out against Laverne and could cause major problems for Independence run game is Malcolm Swan at the nose guard position. If he has a great game and they can make Independence one-dimensional, now you're talking about bringing some pressure on an Andrew Bunch and making him uncomfortable, and those receivers better get open in a hurry because Hillsboro's got the speed defensively to cause them a lot of issues.
I'll tell you, another guy that I think could come into play in this ball game is Independence's place kicker, Grayson Pantoff. Hit a field goal last week in that 38-7 win against Hendersonville. He's only 2 of 2 because they've not had to kick a whole lot of field goals, but I think he's a guy that they don't mind going to in a key situation, and I think this game could be a close ball game where a field goal situation could decide it. So look out for number 25 for Independence at some point this weekend. Another game in 5A, a rematch, as Henry County comes to Centennial again. Second time in about 3 weeks. Centennial beat them 28-20 to close out the regular season, win the Region 7 5A championship. Since then, Henry County's picked up a couple of wins in the playoffs, big ones, and so has Centennial, obviously.
Henry County's a program that's been there and done that. They've proven it as they've gone on to win a couple state championships here over the last couple of years and played in some championship games. They're going to have to travel down here again to Centennial. It's going to be a great atmosphere. Like you said in the podcast, you better get there early because Henry County likes to bring a contingent of people down here to support their ball club. I'm anxious to see in this one, did Henry County find something at the end of the game versus Centennial that they feel like they can attack early and often? And did the Centennial learn something that they better be prepared for? So I think this is going to be a chess match between two really good coaches, two programs, and a guy that has to play well, and he's played well all year, Tyrell Dotson. And I know we talk about him a lot, but there's a good reason for that. A, he's a Texas A&M commit, and B, he's proven it. He's scoring on special teams. He's scoring on offense. He's making plays on defense, and he's a vocal, emotional leader of this football team, and he's going to have another big night for them to be successful.
I think he rolled an ankle in last week's game against Brentwood, and I think on social media and that kind of thing, there was a little concern being shown for whether T-Dot's 25 was going to show up. He's like, don't worry, I'll be there. I think if that foot is attached, he'll be there. If it's not, there may be a problem. But I think Henry County did find something in the second half and in the fourth quarter of that ball game. Savon Stewart threw for 168 yards and 2 touchdowns, ran for 1. They kind of found some things in the passing game late there. Stewart was in for all 3 touchdown drives there in the fourth quarter. Like I said, threw for a couple, ran for 1. Wouldn't surprise me if he starts in this ball game. And they've got the 2-headed monster there at running back with Caleb McCutcheon and Lucas Reynolds. Both those guys made some plays in the passing game late as well. So, would not surprise me if they go with Stewart from the get to try to get something going early on in the passing game.
Those 2 backs you talked about are really talented backs and are going to challenge really a top-level defense in Centennial. They've proven that all year, besides one hiccup against obviously ultra-talented Independence offense. The line play is going to be huge because we have a veteran offensive line for Centennial, and we have an offensive and defensive line for Henry County that's very physical. So I look for that matchup to see who can open the holes for their prospective running backs and then protect their quarterback on some timely passes.
Mondu Sawyers has come along and played really well here down the stretch for Centennial offensively, kind of giving them that thunder and lightning combination, him being the lightning, Tyrell Dodson, as you mentioned earlier, kind of being the thunder in that run game. So this is going to be a great ball game. Going to 6A, another rematch. Smyrna goes to Oakland. Smyrna goes in at 9-3. Who did they beat? I just went blank on who they beat last week. They went on the road to Science Hill and won big, like 44-22 or something like that. So huge win for them. Oakland just keeps doing what they did. They beat Riverdale 54-7 last week to set this rematch up back over at Oakland. And Oakland won this one 20-7 a few weeks back. Be interesting to see what Smyrna tries to do differently this time around.
Well, I'll tell you one thing they're going to do differently is they're going to be able to turn around and hand the ball to Casey Perkins, who didn't play the first time. We're talking about a great back for Smyrna that can really play. Smyrna has the opportunity here to be balanced. They have a good quarterback in John Turner. They have good players on the outside to get the ball to. And then with Casey Perkins back and a veteran offensive line, they can cause Oakland's defense some problems, and an Oakland defense that has star power, and then outside of that star power, good high school football players. A defense I really enjoy watching, and something that is going to be fun to watch Friday night. Smyrna defensively is going to have to find a way to stop the running game and force Oakland to throw it. And I know Oakland's really been working on their pass game and shown some things on film, but they got to slow down Ladarius Patterson and that offensive line to make them one-dimensional and force the passing game to beat them Friday night.
You mentioned Casey Perkins, 1,314 rushing yards, 22 touchdowns. John Turner's thrown for 2,000 yards and 13 touchdowns for Smyrna. You also talk about Oakland's passing game. Brendan Matthews, the junior quarterback, had a big night in the opening round win against William Blunt. Threw for 275 yards and 4 touchdowns. So that passing game is starting to heat up, and it might be at the right time for Oakland to, kind of unveil another dimension in addition to Ladarius Patterson, in addition to Jacoby Stevens, or Mr. Football Finals, when he's back there in the Wildcat. And so, like you said, a little bit of a chess match, as there's some different pieces in the equation here. Maybe Brendan Matthews throwing it a little bit more than he did the first time around. Obviously, Casey Perkins being there after not being there the first time around. So matchup isn't quite the same as it was the first time around, and it'll be interesting to see how that one goes.
And I'll tell you another player real quick, Mo, that's really been showing out in the playoffs is Ian Cleveland, the DB for Smyrna, who now has 5 picks just in the postseason alone.
9 for the year.
9 for the year. And we haven't even mentioned KK yet, who's got offers all across this country. So Smyrna has some pieces in the backfield that if they can slow down the run game just enough, and Oakland has to turn to their pass game, they have playmakers that could make Oakland pay with some turnovers, some interceptions, and turning this ball game around. This is going to be a really exciting ball game, and a game that if you want to see some kids before they go on and play on Saturdays, there are a lot of players in this game who are going to be playing on Saturdays in the future.
When we come back, we're going to hit on a handful of other games that we think are key games here in the Mid-State playoffs as we continue with Mo Patton Videocast. We'll be right back. John Mayer Builders proudly sponsors Mo Patton Sports Videocast. With over 1,500 homes built in Middle Tennessee, John Mayer Builders knows the importance of families and communities. They have numerous business awards to their credit, proving that John Mayer Builders is built to win. Like them on Facebook. John Mayer Builders, our reputation is building.
Southern Athletic Fields originated in 1996 when Bill Marbett formed a company specializing in baseball and softball field materials. SAF has since grown and now has sales reps to cover over 12 states with products servicing many outdoor sports. Southern Athletic Fields takes great pride in working with our customers to achieve the best athletic field possible. Visit our website at www.southernathleticfields.com or like them on Facebook. Dirt, you gotta love it.
Great teams have talent. They also have the necessary tools for success. BSN Sports delivers these tools whether your team needs uniforms, apparel, or athletic equipment to achieve greatness. Just like a winning teammate, BSN Sports is there for you. Their unmatched service ensures that you have best-in-class equipment for championship-level performance, plus uniforms and athletic apparel from the best brands in the industry to look your best when hoisting your trophy. As an All-State agent in Murfreesboro, James Knight knows many local families. His knowledge and understanding of the people in this community helps him provide customers with an outstanding level of service. He helps families like yours protect the things that are important: your family, home, car, boat, and more. He's proud to work with a company like Allstate. As a small business owner, he understands the importance of building a solid foundation for the future and developing long-lasting customer relationships. When you leave his office, I hope you'll feel confident, informed, assured, and satisfied in your choices, the way you should feel. Speaking of rematches, Kevin, in 4A, Springfield, coming off a 36-7 win over Kenwood, goes to Pearl Cone in a rematch of their Week 11 final game. Pearl Cone won that one 46-7. Pearl Cone comes in, they're 8-4, coming off a 28-17 win over Lipscomb Academy. Like I said, Springfield handled Kenwood pretty well. You kind of like Pearl Cone in this one and what they've been able to do all year. but Springfield feels like they're on a little bit of a roll right now, I would imagine.
Yeah, and Pearl Cohn handled them rather easily in the regular season game, and I don't think that's going to be the case this time. Springfield has some playmakers and skill players that can cause teams issues. What I was really impressed with, Mo, was Springfield, and something they're going to have to do this week against Kenwood, and they're a really good back, Mr. Branch. They held him to 136 rushing yards, and he had just run for over 300 in 2 previous games. Not necessarily because their defense was so great. They did do a good job balling him up, but they had multiple drives that were 10 plays or longer, and they controlled the clock down the field and then scored touchdowns. If they want to beat Pearl Cohn and have a chance at in this ball game, they're going to have to put together multiple 10-play plus drives and score touchdowns and keep Pearl Cohn's offense on the sidelines, because Pearl Cohn is too talented with Mr. Groves, Artavius Groves, and Jimmy Farrell at quarterback and Keywan Vaughn at the running back position. They just got too many weapons. If they're going to be on the field for long stretches, they're going to score.
You know, sometimes your best defense is your offense. And Alan Gardner played a part in that, 122 rushing yards and a pair of touchdowns in that win. Like you said, they held Branch down. Meanwhile, Jimmy Farrell, who you mentioned, one of the top quarterbacks quietly in this area, thrown for 2,464 yards, 25 touchdowns. And he typically, if you go back and look at his junior year as well, he typically tends to play his best football this time of year. And Keywan Vaughn has stepped up late, 1,000-yard rusher, 15 touchdowns. You like their offensive pieces, and with what they did to Springfield the last time around, I think Springfield may be hard-pressed to, narrow that gap. But again, they're playing with some confidence right now.
And I think special teams is going to play a factor in this. Pearl Cohn returned a punt for a touchdown last week against Lipscomb. Something that they're very good at is kick returns and punt returns, and they have some players who can make you miss in the open field and score. Springfield is going to have to do a really good job there. But going on Jimmy Farrell, I just really like how calm he plays. He never looks like he's rattled. He can move in the pocket and still look downfield. He's always keeping his eyes up. And he also has the ability to tuck the ball and run. And when you have a quarterback like that, you have a good chance to play in Cookeville for a state championship because of the pieces he can bring to the table.
And again, we talked about Rontavius Groves, had a little bit of a hamstring injury mid-season. Coach Brunetti decided to just sit him and let that thing get right. In the process, they kind of developed some other guys out there. And so that passing game isn't just Jimmy Farrell to Rontavius Groves. There are some other guys that they don't mind getting involved with that as well, which makes it even tougher to defend.
And defensively, we haven't really touched on defensively for Pearl Cohn, but we're talking about a defense since their loss to Muscle Shoals down in Alabama. Over the last 6 games has given up 7 points a game. I mean, they are really playing well and have gotten better as the years progress. So when you add a defense that's playing as well as Pearl Cohn is, with some special teams touchdowns and an offense that can score at any time, we're talking about a state championship contender here, and Springfield has got to bring their A game and keep them on the sidelines Friday night.
If I can hold you to 1 touchdown, I like my chances. In Class 1A, Wayne County, one of 2 undefeated teams remaining in Middle Tennessee. 12-0 goes over to Nashville Christian. 11-1 Nashville Christian. Their only loss was to Pope John Paul II earlier in the year. Wayne County comes in off a 27-7 win over Houston County in last week's second round. Nashville Christian beat Huntington 34-7 and showed a lot of firepower in the process.
I think everybody's kind of licking their chops. We talked a little bit about 4A kind of being wide open with Fulton finally being knocked off. Well, we're talking about a Union City team who had won 37 straight games and are now got knocked off. And so now kind of 1A, everybody's rejoicing and we have a chance this year. But
The only thing as far as that goes is instead of being worried about Union City, now you got to be worried about Peabody, which won 2A last year. But yeah, you do feel a little bit of a, okay, cool.
Right.
Since Union City's gone.
Especially for a Nashville Christian team who has had issues with Union City. So if you're Nashville Christian, you kind of are you don't want to look ahead because you do have an undefeated team. Again, I don't care what you've done over the year. If you're undefeated, you've done something right. So they've got a good football team coming in. Nashville Christian has so many pieces, though. Mario McGraw is an unbelievable running back, but he's scoring a lot of points in special teams, returning kicks and punts. We even talked about the #1 ranked player in the state of Tennessee who's going to Tennessee, and Danielle Patulli at linebacker. This is just a team who's loaded with talent and who is on a mission. And I just have a feeling that Nashville Christian's focused in, and they're going to be ready to play this game Friday night.
You've got 2 Mr. Footballs participating in this ball game. You mentioned Daniel Batuli is a Mr. Football finalist as a lineman. Preston Rice, Wayne County's quarterback, is a Mr. Football finalist. It's back of the year. Over 2,500 offensive yards, 37 offensive touchdowns, and obviously he's the guy that makes everything go on offense for Wayne County. Heading over to this game right here. Baylor comes in here and is the next challenge for a Brentwood Academy team that we've talked about it on paper and just from a talent standpoint looks like the odds-on favorite to win Division II AA.
Yeah, this is going to be this was a game that kind of got away from Baylor early in the regular season, but they made a comeback, and they showed a lot of grit and toughness in doing that. They've got a young man at linebacker, Ryan Parker, who we talked about that is going to be attending Notre Dame to play football. Unbelievable player. I believe had 19 tackles against BA the last time, and hearing some of the BA players speak of him, they spoke very highly of him, and that's always kind of the compliment you want, is when the other players from the other team are speaking highly of you. But we're talking about a BA team that has Jeremiah Oswalt quarterback, and we've made some comparisons here and there to maybe a Johnny Football Manziel type, but it truly is, it's a pleasure to watch him play because he can make plays in the backfield with his eyes downfield and hit you with the big play pass. He can tuck the ball and run it. He can run zone read, and he just stays calm. He's got a composure about him. And not to mention, he was the MVP of the state basketball tournament last year, so you know he's a good athlete. So really like Jeremiah Oswalt and the way he kind of brings a calmness to this football team.
And you talk about dual sport athletes. Ryan Parker is also a state wrestling champion. So you've got some talent, not just on the gridiron, but when you talk about Jeremiah, who was a Mr. Football semifinalist, was not a Mr. Football finalist, I'm still trying to figure that one out. But, you know, you've also got those linemen that we've talked about all year. Bryce Matthews is a Mr. Football finalist. You've got Cameron Johnson, you've got Prince Mamadou. Offensively, they've got all the pieces. It's my understanding that Max Mullen is a little beat up. I'm not sure what his availability will be at linebacker for Brentwood Academy this weekend, so that could be a factor in this thing. Another kid for Baylor to keep an eye on is a linebacker wide receiver, Gage Upshaw, who is committed to the Air Force Academy. So there's some talent on both sides of the ball. Brentwood Academy won this one 42-30 during the regular season, and it'll be interesting to see what Baylor can do towards closing that gap or flipping that script here this Friday.
I'll tell you what Baylor does that can cause you problems. They run a little bit of an unorthodox defense in a 3-3-5, and they've been doing it for years, and they're really good at it. And it's something that can really mess with your blocking scheme. So BA is going to have to be really focused in on making sure they know who they're blocking on offensively against Baylor's aggressive defense. And Baylor has a good defensive line, a nose guard that wreaks havoc, a linebacker, a couple of linebackers we already touched on. This could be a little bit more low scoring than maybe the first go around, with both teams trying to figure each other out and feel each other out on maybe what are they doing differently than they did the first time. But going to be another good football game to go see some players that if you want to see them play on before they play on Saturdays, it's going to be loaded with talent. BA has a young man in Brandon Adams that we haven't even touched on yet, Cam Johnson. These guys are really talented and athletic. This is going to be a really good ball game.
And it's interesting that you mentioned that Baylor's running the 3-3-5 because when Cody White first got here from Texas, that's a defensive scheme that he brought with him. So it may not catch this coaching staff in particular as much by surprise as it might some. So like you said, how they react to that will be something to keep an eye on over the course of the night Friday. When we come back, we're going to rip through a handful of other games, rip through our picks from last week, and give you our picks from this week. We'll be right back. Whether you are looking for seafood, vegetarian options, or delicious fresh prepared meats, Taziki's Mediterranean Cafe has menu items that are sure to satisfy. The recipes are all made fresh and inspired by Mediterranean cuisine. Taziki's is open for lunch and dinner and provides catering for events, both large and small. Order your favorite entree by using the To-Go Order app on your phone. Taziki's is more than a restaurant. It's a take on the idea that great food brings people together. Visit tazikiscafe.com for a listing of locations in the Nashville area. At National Playmakers Academy, developing NPA athletes comes in threes. NPA develops its student athletes' academic, social, and football-specific skills. Next, NPA develops them for better exposure today, recruitment tomorrow, and college education through scholarships for the rest of their lives. We are proud of the outstanding athletes we have developed. We are more proud of the college graduates we have prepared. Work with National Playmakers Academy for developing gifted athletes into productive citizens. The law practice of Allen D. Hall, PLC is grounded in providing exceptional legal services with the utmost trust and integrity. Legal services Allen provides include employment law, confidential investigations, general business law, risk management, and regulatory policy interpretation and drafting. Ultimately, if you need consulting solutions, Allen D. Hall needs to be your choice. I would like to tell you about Kevin Smith, broker of Southwestern Real Estate, and his team. They're getting top dollar for every listing, most of the time 98 to 100% of the asking price. Their Smart Seller program has flexible commission structures and leaves you the option to pay 0% in commissions. If you're thinking of selling your home, their Smart Seller program is a must. Not happy? You can fire them at any time with their easy exit listing guarantee. All this makes working with Southwestern Real Estate a no-brainer. Don't miss out. Check them out online at southwesternrealestatenashville.com or call them directly at 615-973-6047. Kevin, sooner or later somebody's got to beat Maryville in 6A, don't they?
Yeah, and for Maryville, with 3 Rutherford County teams left, they're going to earn it because all 3 teams, no matter who wins, Blackman obviously is their first challenge. Taylor Dowdy and that offensive line can flat out run the football, so Maryville better strap their pads on because it's going to be a very physical contest. The question for me is, can Blackman's defense, who has been pretty good all year, they've been sound, they've been disciplined, they run to the football, can they slow down that Maryville offense that has been so efficient all year long? That's going to be the key in that game.
White Station comes up to Ravenwood after a nail-biter, a 37-36 win over McGavock last week. 7 lead changes in that ball game. White Station featuring the kid who is committed to Oregon, Dylan Mitchell. Is that
Dylan Mitchell, yeah, very, very good football player. If you're a Middle Tennessee fan and you want to see a player, a really dynamic player that you don't get to see in Memphis, he will be in town Friday night. It's a guy that's really fun to watch. Scored 4 touchdowns last week, can score in a variety of ways. Really like Ravenwood, Domo. They're just clicking on a lot of different levels. I like their defensive play. We like Andrew Rupe and Connor Jeffries in the backfield. And boy, do we love Chris Rowland, who, again, you're talking about another kid who can score in a variety of ways. You could possibly see Friday night 2 of the most explosive players in the state of Tennessee in Chris Rowland and Dylan Mitchell. Both guys can score from anywhere on the field offensively and can return kicks, and it's going to be really fun to watch.
Also coming, well, not coming up from Memphis, Wilson Central, 6-6 Wilson Central. It's interesting. They're the 6th seed, they're 6-6, and they're going on the road to Whitehaven.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough matchup for Wilson Central. It's been a fun ride so far for them, and winning a couple of games after coming in at 4-6. But they're about to kind of travel right into a buzzsaw on a Whitehaven team that has won a lot of games over the years and has a lot of talent.
NBA is also hitting the road. They're heading the same way. Heading out I-40 to catch a Christian Brothers team that's in their first year with head coach Thomas McDaniel, who went down there from Oakland, has these guys in the D2AA semifinals. They've got a Mr. Football finalist in Andrew Lee. NBA has a Mr. Football finalist in Ty Chandler.
Yeah, both backs are Mr. Football finalists, so you may see a lot of handing the ball off Friday night. So we may see 40 carries from both players, but really an intriguing matchup. NBA, we know, can push people around on the offensive line. We know Ty Chandler are the best backs in the country. Can Christian Brothers play enough defense to slow them down and give their offense a chance to score some points will be the key.
In 4A, Marshall County hits the road at 11-1. They go down to Chattanooga to catch East Hamilton, an 8-4 East Hamilton team that opened the playoffs with a 32-7 win over Page from Marshall County's region.
Yeah, East Hamilton's gotten on a roll here and is really kind of a hot team with some good talent. Marshall County is going to have to be able to stay balanced. I know they like to throw the ball around, but they've been getting some contributions from some backs lately and really running the ball. I like Marshall County's defensive line. Watch them on film. They're active, they're physical, and they're going to need to be Friday night to pull out a win.
It looks like East Hamilton has been playing pretty well defensively. Be interesting to see what kind of pressure they can get on Ashton Posey, a Class 4A Mr. Football finalist, and what he's able to do in the face of that pressure, because he's kind of what makes them go offensively. In 3A, White House Heritage goes over to CPA in a rematch of a Week 3 matchup that CPA only won 35-28.
It's a little deceiving, the score there, but I will say this. the only way White House Heritage has a chance to win this game is they're going to have to find a way to go on 12, 15 play drives, control the clock, keep CPA's offense off the field. I don't necessarily think they can stop CPA defensively. However, they proved that they can run against CPA by rushing for over 350 yards against CPA last time. So the formula for them is going to have to be no turnovers, no big plays in special teams, hold the ball, go on 10 to 15 play drives, and score touchdowns. If they don't score touchdowns, they're not going to be able to keep up in a shootout with CPA.
Keep Zach Weatherly off the field as long as possible is what you're saying.
And Chip Omar is absolutely beasting people at the running back position and playing really well on defense. A young man that you kind of see his number, and he's number 45. You're thinking fullback, you know, maybe a linebacker that's not all that great. Chip Omar's a player, Mo, and a guy that you got to pay attention to if you're the other team, because he'll run right over you.
In 1A, Columbia Academy goes over to South Pittsburgh, perennial state title contender over there, and they put up some big numbers last week against Fayetteville.
I know Columbia Academy's excited about their team. Their only loss this year is to Franklin Road Academy in overtime, and they went for 2 for the win. They went for the jugular. So they got some good players down there, Mo, that a lot of people don't know about. But a Taylor Thompson, a receiver / wingback, does a lot of damage at the receiver position. Committed to Harding University, a Division II team that's been in the playoffs the last couple of years. They've got a good football team and a team that believes they can win a state championship. So when you believe, you got some good players, and they've done a good job as a coaching staff, they got an opportunity here to survive and advance.
Looking at our picks from last week, I think we did fairly well. Oakland and Riverdale, I think we both had Oakland in that one, and the Patriots took care of business 54-7, like we said earlier.
Shows they're down to business. They're lasered in, and that's scary for other teams in the state when they're that lasered in.
Indy 38, Hendersonville 7. We touched on that one a minute ago. Indy goes forward with their Mr. Football finalist and receiver Nate Johnson.
Not surprised they won. A little surprised by the score. Very impressed with Indy's defense. They absolutely shut down a Hendersonville offense that had been rolling and clicking as of late.
Centennial 25, Brentwood 7.
Yeah, a little bit larger again. We thought that would be a closer score. Brentwood had trouble with turnovers, and 5 turnovers in a game, you're not going to beat anybody, especially against an elite defense like Centennial.
We both had Centennial in that one. We both had Hillsborough in this one, 42-7 over Beach.
Yeah, a little shocking. Coach Clayton touched on it, though. He felt like they kind of beat up Beach a couple weeks ago with how physical they were, and kind of Beach was having some trouble recovering. I know Beach had some injuries, so a little shocked at the score. But Hillsborough, man, when they're clicking, they're as good as anybody in the state, and that's why we're very interested in this Independence game, because this could be maybe a state championship type atmosphere.
Absolutely. We both missed this one. University School of Jackson 24, Franklin Road Academy 17.
Yeah, we did. We thought the speed for FRA would win out, but let's give credit to Easton Underwood, the quarterback at USJ. Just did an efficient job of hitting receivers when they were open, and then he did a really good job in the zone read, something that's hard to defend, especially when you're an athlete and you can read things and you have good vision. He did a good job. And they had a kicker kick a 50-yard field goal, and it's hard to defend that. And when you have that kind of power on special teams, kudos to USJ. They've had to beat a Knoxville Webb team that won 4 straight state championships, and then an undefeated FRA team that a lot of people thought could advance to a state championship game. So, man, USJ's done a really good job, and they got to, again, go up against a North Point Christian team who's undefeated. So if they make it, Mo, again, another team who's really earned it.
You know, it's interesting as I look at that D2A bracket, because you've got 4 teams, none of them east of Jackson, and 2 of them are going to come to Cookeville to play for a state championship in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, everybody in the West, and the West is very talented this year. It's not a complete shock, but it is a talented West this year in Division II Single A.
MBA 38, Macaulay 10.
Yeah, we like them. Weren't really expecting that after an overtime game in Chattanooga, but again, great job at NBA. Getting a little passing game going, but I'm really impressed with their defense. We're talking about a Macaulay team who scored on everybody all year, so very impressive performance by NBA's defense.
Okay. Mo Patton Sports Videocast is brought to you by Snap Laces. Snap Laces' elite lacing system was designed for world-class athletes. They come in hundreds of color combinations, so you can perform well and look great at the same time. Buy a set online today by clicking through the top image on mopattonsports.com. LT360 is a health and weight loss company based in Brentwood, led by Coach Scott Oatsvall and Brent High. They have helped more than 700 clients in the last year get healthy, lose weight, and feel better with an all-natural program and simple approach to exercise and nutrition. LT360 offers free health and wellness seminars each week. For more information, visit their website at lt360.com or call them at 615-312-8244. John Mayer Builders proudly sponsors Patton Sports videocast. With over 1,500 homes built in Middle Tennessee, John Mayer Builders knows the importance of families and communities. They have numerous business awards to their credit, proving that John Mayer Builders is built to win. Like them on Facebook. John Mayer Builders, our reputation is building. Let's take a look at our Big Six for this week. We'll start with that big game down in Thompson Station, Hillsborough and Independence. Who you like?
Something tells me to pick Hillsborough, but I just can't do it. Independence is just on a roll, and when you watch them play, Andrew Bunch has such a command of this offense, and he's got receivers who get open in a hurry. And then the defense is playing so well, but if there isn't kind of an upset alert, it's Hillsborough. Hillsborough, when they're clicking, can beat anybody. They are ultra talented. I expect this to be a late field goal game with Independence having the kicker that Hillsborough wished they had.
You know, you can expect a text from Dustin Lopez over that one, and so will I, because I think I'm going to take the Eagles as well. Again, I do like it close. I think it's going to be a close ball game. Again, I think it's going to be Indy's biggest challenge of the year. I think they'll answer it and they'll move forward from here. But you know, I would not be the least bit surprised if it goes the other way.
Think about this, Mo. We're talking about a Hillsborough team who's seen Oakland and NBA, who are both still playing, and then playing Independence. So when Hillsborough walks out on the field Friday night, Independence is not gonna have any thought in their mind that they're gonna lose this game. They're gonna have confidence to come in this game. They've already seen the best, and that's why this is an upset alert for Independence.
No question. Henry County goes back to Centennial for round 2.
If this was in Henry County, I may have to change my pick, but because it's at Centennial, because they have the best player on the field, and because Coach Rector does a good job of getting his best players the ball, I'm going to go with Centennial in this game.
I like the Cougars in this one. I like the way they're playing. They're playing with a lot of confidence. Brian Rector's done a great job building that program to this point for these type games. I like the Cougars here. Smyrna at Oakland.
Yeah, another one that's really tough to pick because of how close it was. And then with Casey Perkins coming back, you got to ask yourself, how's that going to change the complexion of this ball game? But I still got to go with Oakland. But I think this is another game that's going to be really close, really physical, and it wouldn't shock me one way or the other where it goes. But I just have a feeling Oakland's locked in, and they're ready to show everybody that they are ready to move forward and be a 6A state champion and move forward and survive and advance.
I just think if it comes down to an individual making a play to win a ball game, I think Oakland has more of those type individuals than Smyrna does, and for that reason I'm going with Oakland in a closer ball game than the first time around. Springfield Pearl Cone.
Pearl Cone all the way. I just don't think Springfield has enough horses in the tank. I don't think they have enough up front to contain Pearl Cone. I think Pearl Cone's defense is playing really well, and that's going to be a tough matchup for Springfield's offense with the speed Pearl Cone will present defensively.
I really think Pearl Cone is a team that could win a couple more games here and get to Cookeville. I like the Firebirds in this one. Wayne County, Nashville Christian.
Nashville Christian, again, they just got too much talent, and right now that talent's clicking, and when Mario McGraw can score offensively, defensively, and on special teams, he brings a different dimension. And we haven't even talked about a Brant Wallace, who up front, Wayne County's got a Mr. Football candidate at quarterback. Better watch out for the nose guard, because that nose guard gets off the ball very quickly, disrupts all kind of offensive plays. Watch out for Brant Wallace for Nashville Christian. You talked about the problems that Nashville Christian has had with Union City. I think with that program being out of the postseason, NCS probably got a little boost of confidence here. I like the Eagles here. Speaking of Eagles, Baylor and Brentwood Academy, who you like? Yeah, BA's the favorite. Again, kind of an upset alert in the sense that Baylor has enough talent, enough pieces, and does some things unorthodox that can cause you some problems. But you got to go with BA right now. They're just clicking offensively. They're doing a good job defensively. They got so much talent across the board that you expect them to win Friday night.
You know, they are 10-1, and they have scored 41 or more points in each of those 10 wins. They're just so explosive offensively. You got to go with the Eagles here, I think, and see what happens from there. But I like Brentwood Academy in this one as well. Want to remind you again, follow us on Facebook at Patton Sports, and get involved in our Beat Nostradamus contest. I'll have my picks up there. We'll see what your picks are. If you get more right than I do, you go into a drawing for a Taziki's Mediterranean Cafe gift card. So shoot those to Beat Nostradamus at mopattonsports.com. That's going to do it. Get out and see some of these postseason games. Quarterfinals in Division I, semifinals in D2, and that's going to do us. He's Kevin Smith. I'm Maurice Patton. We'll see you at the ball game.